Well, we've reached the second checkpoint, if you like, of the Premier League season. Let's take a wider look at the league as a whole. City and Arsenal are expected to fight it out for the title. People have been billing it as a two-horse race. But Darren, let's talk a little bit about Liverpool. Do you give them any chance of keeping the pace with those two? They've had a really positive start to the season, but some tough fixtures to come after the break.
Yes, there is. And yes, in answer to your question, I can see them keeping up to pace just because the way it's started. And yeah, arguably not played anyone with too much significance in terms of the title race. But I just feel the confidence that they've got now. They seem to be going into games like Liverpool 3-4 years ago, that they just feel no matter what, we're going to win. Yeah, okay, 1-0 against Crystal Palace, but still 3 points. And Arne Slot, credit, has come in, not really changed too much. And I think he come in and won the supporters over, won the players over immediately by, I think, I'm not going to quote him word for word, but he said something along the lines of, I don't really need to sign anyone because Jurgen Klopp has left me. I've inherited this tremendous squad that Jurgen Klopp has. And he's right. And he's won the support of the players over straight away. And yeah, he seems to be doing all the right things at the moment. And yes, there's some tough games to come, tough fixtures. But yeah, I 100% think it's a three-horse race now.
I think they're in it too. I really do. And I'm going to keep saying that until it's proven otherwise, because with Arne Slot, you're right to say that he hasn't changed a great deal, in that a lot of the core things that Jurgen Klopp's side were good at, guess what? Liverpool can still do it. Yeah. But I think what he has done is brought a greater element of control. And if you look at the last couple of seasons that Jurgen Klopp had, where they weren't quite the Liverpool of the glory years, my criticism of them was that they played with such high energy, and maybe the players had some of them had got over the hill a little bit, and there wasn't that ability to maintain those energy levels throughout the duration of an entire season. But I look at them now and I think they're so much more controlled that, guess what? They don't have to gas out every single week. They don't have to go and play at 110% to win a game of football anymore. They can use their attacking capability. They've got some great players in that final third especially. And once they get their noses in front, they just seem to know how to keep the ball a bit better. It's not the rock and roll football of the past, and there is just that bit more control. If we're assuming that those three, Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, in whatever order, are going to be the top three, who do you fancy to finish fourth based on what we've seen so far? I know it's difficult. There's a lot of teams in the mix, but who's caught your eye?
As you said, it is difficult. I still fancy Man City to win it. I know that you're not going to like that. I do think just because they win it all the time, that's the only reason.
I don't like it because I'm an Arsenal fan, but I acknowledge that given how good they've been over the years, people are more than entitled to put them as favourites.
Of course. And they are favourites for me. But I think it could be won by all three of those, Liverpool, Arsenal or Man City. This isn't a foregone conclusion anymore that some seasons gone past, you'd be like, Man City are winning this no matter what, and you just disregard any other argument. This season is a lot different. I think Arsenal was already shown, even against Southampton, you get a point last season or season before. I think they've shown that they can really, the character that they show, they're going to go all the way to the end and maybe one better. In terms of fourth position, I mean, Chelsea are looking really good.
They are.
Which is really surprising. We all know that Chelsea have got a fantastic squad, but it's been a squad of fantastic individuals. Now they seem to be gelling as a team. And I think with Cole Palmer, arguably the best player in the Premier League at this current moment, I think they've got a real chance. I put Spurs in that. I do. I think they could be one of them. I think there's a group of 4, maybe 5. I think Aston Villa are definitely in that. Yeah. I think they could be. Chelsea are in that. I think Spurs will be in and around there. I think Newcastle, I think they could be in and around there. Disappointing, obviously, at the weekend, missing the penalty. Although Everton should have had a penalty, let's be honest. It was a disgraceful decision. Do I see Brighton staying? Not really. But we have to just give some plaudits to Fabian Hürzeler, by the way, and to Brighton. This guy has come from Division 2 in Germany. Where they find these people, I do not know. I'd love to know the first phone call that someone's phoned up the powers that be at Brighton and said, right, there's this manager for FC St. Pauli, previously at FC Pippinsreed. is doing bits. Like, what?
Yeah, where does it come from?
The person that picked up the phone, really? Like, fair play to them. They're finding these people. They've done well. But do I see them being in that top 4 race come the end of the season? I don't see Fulham being in that. I'm only going through the list as we speak. Manchester United, we're going to talk about them. I know I don't see them being anywhere near it.
I think they could be if they make a change during this international window. If they make a change now and they get that new manager bounce and they bring someone who's a bit more wily and streetwise than maybe Erik ten Hag is. Because I look at that group and I still think, yeah, okay, it's not a Man United team of the past, and some of their signings have been questionable in recent years, but there's still enough quality in those ranks, like to make a go of it and to make a fight of it. Like, I don't see them as being way off of Newcastle, for example. I would say United's squad's better than Newcastle's.
Yeah. I mean, that's close. I'd say those two.
Do you think?
But look. Do I think they'll be fourth? No, I don't. I don't think they'll be there. Do I think they'll be better than where they are currently? What, they sit in 14th in the Premier League? Yeah, of course, they're going to be in European contention, 100%. But as you said, depends what they do over this international break. It seems like Erik ten Hag is clinging on to his job still. If they made a change, and if we're led to believe the rumours that Thomas Tuchel and Thomas Frank, they're admirers of those two, yes, I think they could be a team that could surprise you. And it's crazy to say Manchester United could surprise you and finish high up the table, but that's what it would be in the current climate. Just, I mean, in answer to your question, fourth is probably, for me, out of Chelsea, Aston Villa, Newcastle and Tottenham. And if I'm going to throw my hat on one, I have to say Chelsea, the way they're playing at the moment. I love it to be Spurs, but I just think Chelsea could surprise a few as well and might jump into that top 3.
I think based on what we've seen so far, it's right to put Chelsea there. I'm just looking at my notes, Darren, and it says here that you told us before a ball was kicked that Ipswich could break into the top 10.
No, I didn't.
I don't know if that's true.
That's misquoted.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to correct that quote if it's wrong. Gone.
The quote I said is they will be closer to the top 10 than they will be a relegation battle. They'll be closer. I never said they'll break into it. Love to see them break into it. Am I going to retract it? No, I'm not going to. I think once the first win comes for Ipswich, I think they could go on a little bit of a run. I think their next 3 games are pivotal to their season. I think they play Everton next after the international break. Then I think they're away at Brentford and then they play Leicester. I think you've got to be looking at least 2 wins out of those 2. Brentford's a tough one, we know that, but you've got to be getting at least 6 points. If they do that, yeah, I'm going to stick with that prediction that I think they'll be closer. And when I say that could be 14th. Actually, that could be 13th, closer to top 10.
Do you mean it in terms of points or in terms of
position? In terms of points. That's what I meant at the start of the season. Yeah, I could say position. But I still think, yes, it's not started particularly great in terms of my prediction. 7 games, I think 4 draws. But the 4 draws, I mean, the Aston Villa one, they played really well and they could have gone away with a win against a top Aston Villa. I was at the Southampton game. I don't think they were very good in that game and they clinged the point with Sammy Morsey scoring at the end with a slight deflection. But the other 2, I think Brighton, they got a point. They're drawing against good sides. Fulham, I think, is the other one as well. I could be wrong. But yeah, I think once that first win comes, which for me, it has to be the next game against Everton, then yeah, I think they'll start picking up a few more points. I think they'll be okay. Hopefully my prediction comes right.
So Ipswich are in my bottom 3.
Right.
I've got them, Southampton, and who's the other promoted side? It's completely gone out of my head. Leicester, that's it. I've got them 3 as my 3 to go down.
Right.
Obviously, based on your prediction, you don't have Ipswich in your bottom 3. So who are yours?
Yes, Southampton is in mine. I think. Who did I say at the start of the season? I think I said Southampton, Leicester, because Leicester, we didn't know whether they were going to get a points deduction or not. But I said those 2, and Everton was in mine. I think it's going to be out of Everton and Wolves. I think Everton might just have enough to stay up, and with Sean Dyche at the Realm, I think he always has enough. I think Wolves are really struggling, and I feel for Gary O'Neill. Played alongside him. I think he's a good manager. There's a good manager in him. I think he's had the opening 10 fixture in the Premier League, probably the hardest out of the Premier League teams. But you've got to do better. You've got to do better, and I think seeing Brentford score 3 goals within the first minute, the last thing you want to do is give them an early opportunity, and that's exactly what they've done, minute 25 or something. So I think they could be struggling. Wolves, Southampton, Leicester.
How long until one of those picks up the phone and calls David Moyes to come in and try and steer the ship safe? Because I look at Wolves and, you know, I like Gary O'Neill as a coach. I think he's a really bright young coach, but he's struggling at the minute. Everton, I'm not saying Sean Dyche is doing a bad job, because there's so many outside factors that are impacting Everton Football Club. I think that's clear to see.
Yep.
But sometimes a new manager bounce, bringing back someone who is a club legend in David Moyes, it could give them that extra 5-10% that maybe they need to get over the line. Because if Everton go down, Darren, ahead of moving into their new stadium, that would be a disaster.
A travesty. And yes, I think now's the time for clubs in this international break, if they want to make a change. I think it has to be done now, because you're then, after this, it's coming to that busy Christmas period, and that will come around really, really fast. I think if you're looking at Manchester United, we've spoken about Erik ten Hag. If they want to make it, it has to be done soon. I think down the bottom clubs, Wolves, potentially, I hope not, because as I said, I played with Gary O'Neill. I think he's a great guy. But if you want to make the change, I think it needs to be done now. I know it's so early, but if you want that chance, and as you said, the new manager bounce, it has to be done relatively soon. And we could see a few. If one goes, we could see a few more pull the plug on their manager. And there's a few managers out there. I mean, Graham Potter's making some moves in terms of his media stuff, and we all know when managers start appearing on the TV, something could be around the corner. Absolutely.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.